Welcome to another edition of Exit Philosophy. He's Mal, I'm Griff. And once again, if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts or watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your friends. And we'd appreciate that very much. And we're always appreciative of your viewership, your listenership, and your loyalty. So with that being said, let's get into the Blue Jays, baseball, and what's been going on this past week. First of all, is the rare media availability for Blue Jays president Mark Shapiro. And he did it on the field. I know that we both listened to the 18 minutes of his press briefing, but he didn't do it in the interview room in the Blue Jays well wired for sound and microphones, and he didn't do it in the formal setting of the interview room. He did it on the field at 2:30 in the afternoon. Do you think there was a method to that?
Oh, I think there's always a method to Mark's appearances or wording. Like we all know, he's very calculated in what he's saying. So, do I think it's overly important? No. My guess is he's probably trying to, come off as casual, um, impromptu to that type of, last minute decision. I don't believe that's the case, but I think, Mark's trying to go for that kind of vibe right now. And, you know, times are good. Times are good. Everybody's happy. Come down, speak to the boys, get a little love. I think it's probably where it's at. I don't know if there's anything more to it, but you may think differently. He definitely does things for a reason. There's no question. He's not one like JP Ricciardi just to show up on the field and just have casual conversations off the cuff. That's not Mark. He doesn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that he has an availability, one at spring training for the general media, and then he has one during the season, and I guess this was it. And then he has one as a season wrap up sometime in early, in the first week or
Yeah.
two after the season ends. So this was his in-season availability. So when you talk about not being like a JP Ricciardi or an Alex Anthopoulos or anything, yeah, that is absolutely 100% correct. And the more I thought about it, not doing it in the interview room, I'm thinking maybe he didn't want it televised live by Sportsnet. Um, and not doing it sitting in the dugout, but standing on the field. I think that's more of like a mental. I can escape at any time from this grilling if it gets to a point where I'm not liking what it is. So, like, it's easier to slide along the dugout rail and bolt than it is to
Well,
get up being surrounded in the dugout.
and smart play. I mean, it's easier. It kind of diffuses any sort of tougher questions right out of the gate because it does come across as like a last minute impromptu casual conversation. So I think it always changes the tone when it's not some sort of official in the media room, be prepared to ask questions type of environment. He knows he's going to do that before the season, at the end of the season. Um, and this just kind of, steers questioning, and I respect that. I think it's a smart move if you're going to do it. And let's face it, times are really good. And I think you saw, some of his actions during the game. He's enjoying the attention and basking in the glory of some victories. And hey, I guess why not? Why not?
Yeah, and another thing is he's very comfortable at this. He's very good at it. He charming most of the time when he's
Yes,
not. But
well-spoken man.
but yeah, and like I know that this was happening the other day on Tuesday when Rosie DeMano came from the Star and she came over to me in the press box before we went downstairs and said, "Oh, I'm going to rip him a new a-hole." And I don't care how well they're doing on the field. And then I read her column, and it was like, how could I rip this guy? He came across as like self-deprecating and
Yeah.
not really. And so at least she did. She went there with an agenda. She went there with a train of thought with a belief, which she always sticks to. I mean,
Yes.
she's easy to read in that regard, but she came away writing something that was almost positive. And so, like, Mark does a good
Don't tell
job
her.
with this. Yeah, she's a subscriber, so
That's right.
she'll know. Now, just going from there, his future. He talked about his future, and there's been talk. I think even some of the line of questioning on Tuesday was, or yeah, it
Which,
was
if I'm not
Tuesday
mistaken,
or
was
Wednesday. It was Wednesday.
due to Rosie's questioning. So
Yeah, it was like, what is your future? Are you
yeah.
going to become the grand poobah of sports for Rogers because they own everything, or are you happy where you are? And you heard his response. He talked about loving where he was, the city, the successes they've had. What were your thoughts on his response? And do you think he's going to stay on as president? He said that Rogers is as enthusiastic about keeping him as he is about staying. So, what's your thought on his future? Could he be be holding the umbrella of Rogers Sports, or do you think that there's already somebody there?
Well, I mean, they just brought Keith Pelly back to, if I'm not mistaken, to do just that, at least for a while, anyways. And Keith is not one to shy away from media and the sports world. So we've seen enough of him. Well, yeah, we've seen a lot of him in the other organizations and his impact.
Seen
Maybe
enough of him.
wrong choice of words. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that post is available right now, but certainly you would think Mark would be in the mix for something along those lines. Hey, let's face it. I mean, it's been pretty easy and fair to be critical of the organization and Mark for a long time. Um, you know, uh, you have to at least acknowledge how well they're playing. And from the business side of things, Mark has gotten stuff done where others have not previously. So, whether that's a combination of Mark's influence and a change of heart at Rogers and how they approach their sports properties, I think, you know, that's fair to say that there's been a change there. Bottom line is they've done a lot with that organization as far as the business side, and it's hard to criticize that. And Mark's been at the helm of that, obviously. So, I think the winning was the real issue. We've always talked
Right.
about that. If you don't win, who cares? But winning right now, it's hard to see Mark going anywhere unless he chose to. And I think his comments were telling that he's not that type of person, which you can't argue with. 24 years in Cleveland, 10 years here. He's not a guy always looking for the next, reward and next. He's clearly never been that type of person. Now, the question was, would he survive this year if we had another 75 win team and the stands had less than 20,000 people in them like they did in April?
Yeah, that was a difficult situation, and if
Right.
it had continued like that, it would have been a far different media availability this week than he had. But he may not even had
He
that
wouldn't have had
media
it. He wouldn't
availability.
have done it. Um,
But yeah, but my question then becomes, if he was to step aside and not step aside, but move up in the Rogers corporate world, who would replace him with the Blue Jays? I mean, Marnie Starkman does a great job with business. She does all the heavy lifting on a lot of the stuff that is credited to Mark. But in terms of the baseball acquisition and the baseball side, uh, can Ross Atkins be the Bobby Webster? Can he sort of step in and take over that role? My answer is I don't think so.
no, I think there'd have to be, or Mark would still maintain a strong focus on that particular brand of sports for the Rogers portfolio. And just maybe add to with most of the major renovations done, maybe just adds to his portfolio and still maintains that large focus on the Blue Jays. I could see something like that because you wouldn't, I mean, you wouldn't think they're ready to bring someone in to replace Mark in that respect because I wouldn't say it's in-house this particular time, right? So
Yeah, no, they have people in house that could replace the Ross Atkins role, but nobody, maybe even in Canada, that could do the Mark Shapiro role. With Mark sort of moving to Toronto and adopting Canada, basically, there's nothing that he says that makes you think that he's not 100% on board with this country and with this franchise.
and it sounds like from his comments that everybody, from the Rogers side is in agreement with that too. Like he sounded pretty confident that he wasn't going anywhere, put it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So I suspect, we're going to hear something positive in regards to his future soon as the season ends, type thing.
Which,
That's
yeah, which brings us to Bo Bichette. Everybody was talking before the season, and one of the things he even mentioned was the signing of Vlad, keeping Vlad on board, and we remember back in spring training and early in the season before the announcement was made how the organization was continuing to say we really want Vlad to sign for the rest of his career. We're on board, but with Bo was the next project, and both those guys came up together, and they were 1A and 1B for years from 2019 when they both joined the team, and now Bo is going to be a free agent at the end of the
yeah,
season, and there's nothing like that with
no,
regard to commenting on Bo Bichette. His quote was, "I'm confident at the right time we'll make an effort to, but this isn't the right time." That does not sound like a huge vote of confidence in the future of Bo Bichette in a Blue Jays uniform.
not at all. I mean, we've hashed this over a lot of times. My personal belief is Bo's been gone from this organization for a couple of years now mentally, and I don't mean that affects his player, and I think he just made a decision that this isn't the place for him for a variety of reasons. Now, the only reason you might think that could possibly change is the success of the team. Bo clearly wants to win. That's always been his focus. But I just think both parties came to the conclusion, and let's be honest, Griff, they've tried to sign Bo for 4 or 5 years. Like this isn't hockey. You don't wait to the end of a contract and especially with players under team control. These conversations have been had for years and years about trying to extend him, and clearly, for one reason or another, that hasn't happened. So, I don't think there's enough that's going to change Bo's mind, and maybe even the teams at this point. I think it's
Yeah, I mean,
probably let's just move on.
yeah. You look at, and you mentioned it just a second ago, but you look at all the organizations in baseball who have young star players coming up. They lock them up. All of a sudden, it's become trendy to lock up your guy in his first year or after his first year. Lock him up for 8 years, buy out 3 years of his
Of
free
course,
agency,
of
but have that
course.
cost certainty. It's something they could have done, and you maintain that they tried it with Bo for several years,
Yeah.
leading to this situation they're in right now. But like, can are they thinking that they can do as well or better for far less money? I mean, they have options like moving Andres Jimenez over to shortstop for a year until one of their studs develops. They put JoJo Parker on a conference call immediately after the question came up about Bo, and JoJo Parker is the number one draft pick this year. He's only 18 years old, but he is a shortstop. And they've been promoting Arjun Namala, who's only at high class A, and so he's a few years away. So it seems like right now it's not going to be Leo Jimenez. So like, if they let Bo walk, they save $22 million, $25 million, whatever that they can spend elsewhere, and they do have a shortstop already under contract through 28 in Andres Jimenez.
Correct.
So that would seem to be the alternative. Do you think that that's the plan that they have?
I think it's 100% the backup plan. I mean, whether they still believe on any level they can bring him back, I doubt it. But I think that was always part of the Jimenez trade, right? Like this guy's a premier defender, and you can move him over to short, and you can plug a hole for a certain period of time, and you're fine. Obviously, the bat is a major concern, but you can work around that. You can work around that, and just knowing you've got with the pitching staff and the defense first attitude you have, that Jimenez fits that role. And the pitchers will be happy. Um, you'll be solid back there, and you can go find bats. You could go
Yeah.
find.
I
Um,
mean, they've been so consistent on their emphasis on run prevention. And the old adage is that strength up the middle with a major league team is what you're looking for. And when you look at the Blue Jays, if they move Jimenez over to shortstop, they've got Dalton Varsho in center. They've got Jimenez at short. They've got Alejandro Kirk behind the plate, who's a Gold Glove type pitch presenter.
yes, yeah,
Like
framer
he
for sure.
controls. No, I don't like the word framer. Don't use the word framer. It's like don't use the word unicorn. I hate the word unicorn. That's a warning for the future.
That's I mean, okay, no.
But their
I'll
strength
use
up
it
the
as
middle,
quickly as I can.
they would just need to find a second baseman to replace Jimenez who can do the job defensively, who can do a superior defensive job, because that's what they emphasize. It was never going to be Davis Schneider. It was never going to be Will Wagner.
No.
They need to find somebody who can save their pitchers' runs. And I'd be very wary if I was another team looking to sign a Chris Bassett next year or one of those guys, because your team better be as good defensively as the Blue Jays. Otherwise, this guy could drift down into mediocrity in a hurry.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think that's part of the Jimenez trade. I think everybody knows that Bo is kind of gone, and we're all playing this out, and that's where we are, whether you like it or not, whether what the reasons for it, you can debate. But I think Bo's mindset is to find a different place to play. And I think the Jays have come to the conclusion that might be best for everybody as well. So enjoy the ride. Let's see what happens here, because Bo's a hell of a ball player. There's no question.
Well, just further on Bo, he's listed at 5'11", 190, and he's 27 years old, but he looks thicker than that. He looks like he's put on weight after he shaved his hair. Maybe whatever. But he does look thicker, and he is definitely not as fast as he was. He stole 25 bases in 2022. And this year, 3 years later, he's got 4, and he's been caught 3 times. And yesterday, he couldn't score from first base with a big lead and a ground ball double into the left field corner by Vlad, and he couldn't score. Do you think that his body type has changed? I mean, there are reasons you can't bat him in the leadoff spot. One of them is that he swings at too many first pitches. Another is that he doesn't really clearly doesn't run the bases like he used to. And then as a third or fourth hitter, his power's okay. His clutch hitting's okay. But do the Blue Jays really value all those things with Bo, or are they looking at the diminishment of some of his skills?
That's a good question.
Because he is just 27, but when we were raving about him, he was 21, 22, 23, and a young stud. And now what Bo is today is probably what he's going to be for the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, but I mean, what's wrong with that?
Which is pretty damn good.
But you don't like leading the league in hitting?
Yeah, like in hits. Right.
No, I hear what you're saying. He's a different style of player a little bit. Like you say, he's aging. He doesn't run quite as well, but he's certainly not a liability out there. I think they came to the conclusion. I think Bull let them know quite a while ago that he wasn't going to play here long term, and now they've made moves to deal with that. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, basically, they could afford Bo's contract along with Vlad, because Vlad at $500 million, that's over 15 years, and he's making 28.5 this year. I think it maxes out somewhere at 35. But the way that baseball is going, the way that he's going, or the way that this organization is going, they could have afforded both contracts, but it looks like they're choosing not to.
Yeah, I just, and again, I think there is a certain number you get to with Bo where maybe they're not comfortable with it. And again, I don't think it's on the table. Like, I just don't think it's really worth going there at this point. I think both parties have understood that this is going to play its course out over the last 2 or 3 years, and this is where we're at. So they made a choice to keep Bo to make a run, and fortunately, that's happening this year. Because if they had that deadline and 500 baseball team, conversations would have been entirely different about what do you do at this stage.
So they make a qualifying offer to Bo after the season. They get a draft pick compensation.
Yep.
But they also, to me, they don't look at what Bo's offers are and say, okay, come back to us and we'll see if we can match it or not. They're not even going to do that, right?
I don't think that's where this relationship is at. I think, there might be some, token offer, who knows? But I think all that's been done. I don't think this is a situation where you get to the end of the year and you're okay. Bo's a free agent. Let's get involved. Like these.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. No, like the going's been gone for a long time, and let's see what Bo gets. I think that's the real interesting conversation. It's not going to be in Toronto. I mean, what does he get? Where does he get it? And like we spoke about last week or the week after about, teams now that weren't in the mix are in the mix, such as the Yankees. I find that really intriguing and something that seems like a Bo move too, that he would be intrigued by that. And, that is the real entertainment part of this for me, is what happens in the off season and who are the suitors for Bo.
Yeah. I mean, the Yankees look like, and then after going to LA and seeing the Dodgers, the Dodgers might even be a suitor for Bo,
It's a perfect fit. I mean, hey, Mookie Betts is not having a good year, and his injury early on, and how much playing shortstop is just not where you want him at his age, like in his trajectory of his career. I mean, he should be in the
I'm sure he doesn't even want to be there. He's a good soldier, but I'm sure he would rather be in right field. Mookie.
100%. And if there's, it's hard to not connect playing shortstop to maybe some of the issues he's having offensively. Maybe that's a stretch. I don't know, but it's certainly a different animal playing shortstop.
Yeah.
Than it is.
Maybe he suffered a bowling injury.
Maybe he's just more focused on his game. I mean, understood.
Then Shapiro talked about John Schneider. Clearly, to me anyway, I don't know what you think, that there's not going to be an extension or even talk of an extension until there's something determined with Shapiro and Ross Atkins moving forward.
And that's fair. I mean, that's totally fair. But good on John. I mean, I think we both love John as a manager. I get the criticism at times when you lose, and you're going to get criticized. But John's, I said it many times, good baseball man. No reason he can't be a good manager, and I think he's kind of showing. You get a few more pieces to put into play. It's a little different, and he's good manager. But correct, I think you wait until the season ends and see where things go with the management team, which look positive, and then you deal with John.
Mal, let me just tell you a little something about why, when I come back to covering the Blue Jays on a really a daily basis, I have a further appreciation of John Schneider and his managerial style and what he is able to do. Because I think back on my Ironbacks season, my inaugural Ironbacks season.
Now you've lived it.
And I've lived it. And now I look at John Schneider, and there are certain times in a game where you look down to your bullpen and you got nothing. You got nothing available. You got nobody. And like now I look at John Schneider and I go, okay, what decision does he have? Neither decision is going to work out well.
No,
And I have a warm spot in my heart for his tough decisions bullpen
now
wise
it's tougher
because,
for you to
and I
rip them.
thank you.
Can't
Yeah,
rip them anymore.
absolutely
Yeah.
tougher. I mean, how many games were we tied or
Yes.
1 run lead or in the game in the fifth and sixth
Out
inning?
of arms.
And then we look down the bullpen and they're shooting dice, you know. But
Well, tell John Schneider he's welcome that I gave you that
yeah,
perspective.
yeah. It's a kinder, gentler Griff.
Yes, yes.
Oh, speaking of, and again, the managerial process, and part of what Mark Shapiro said was when I asked him about balancing, has the evolution of John Schneider been that he's better balancing information and feel? Because the feeling was that when Barrios was taken out of the game, it was all information, and he wasn't using any feel because
Which
he
is
was either
which is
scared
true.
of his position. Yeah. Why am I saying the feeling was? It was true.
That's right.
And he was criticized for that. And now he's making some decisions that are based on feel. And Shapiro acknowledged that he's better at that balance now. And he talked about Don Mattingly and he talked about DeMarlo Hale. And you see him leaning on the rail with Pete Walker. They're constantly talking about pitching and whatever. So he has that feel going for him. And that's probably why you and I think that he's going to be a candidate for manager of the year in the American League. But now the qualifications for becoming a major league manager, I just want to ask you, because my observation is that there's no way the old school way of reaching the major leagues as a manager, of playing, going down to Class A to start managing, working your way up to double AAA, and then being given the major league job. That's never going to happen again, because in the minor leagues, and this was what Shapiro pointed out, you don't have those 10 strength and conditioning people, the high performance people. You don't have 15 coaches. You have 2 coaches in the minor leagues. You don't have 15 coaches, and you don't have all of the leadership, the management people following your lead, and that you have to control on a daily basis, home and road. Do you agree that the qualifications for becoming a major league manager have changed dramatically?
Well, the whole major league system has changed dramatically, and you're right. I mean, logically, it doesn't make sense for you. It's a different job at the major league level. It's just not baseball anymore. It's like any organization, Griff. When you're in there, you're leading all these people. That's the thing people don't see. You have to deal with those 15 high performance people. They are part of it. When you're at home, they're all in there. You've got all these coaches. You got 3 hitting coaches now. Your ability to handle people is way more important than your ability to choose the right reliever. It just sounds silly, but that's how do you get people into the best position to perform? And it goes well beyond the guys on the field now. So you're right. It makes more sense that you do all those things to, enhance your skills as a manager and then probably move into a coaching role in the major leagues or a bench role, right? And then,
Yeah, you have to. You
yeah,
have to at least spend a couple of years observing how the manager wends his way through the maze of
yeah,
Major League
that's
Baseball.
right. That's right. You have all these people that are in the clubhouse and they matter now. So how
Yeah,
does John Schneider handle the PR team? And it's not just them anymore and all these strength guys and trainers and they're a part of it. So it's not
yeah.
just the guys you see in the field, whether you
I
like it or
spent
not.
I spent 4 years PR with the Blue Jays. You spent far more than that, but the 4 years was the beginning of all of those people in the clubhouse. And when I left at the end of 4 years after the 22 season, I still didn't know the names of some of those guys, the support staff.
Griff, I was there during, well, the transition came when Mark came in, clearly. So
Yeah,
obviously I was there for the first couple years, and it was an entirely different world. We went from having a small group in there to people everywhere that were bringing different backgrounds, none of it baseball, which was a very difficult transition.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand how that takes time to integrate. And thinking back and in hindsight, how much of that is responsible for the organization going through some tough years, um, trying to find its way because the entire culture is different. I'm not saying worse, I'm saying different.
Yeah.
So how much of that impacted the organization? Now, hopefully, you're seeing the fruits of that. And that it's when you think back, you're like, wow, that I can just being overwhelmed with people coming into the clubhouse, trying to impact the decisions on the field with
Yeah.
absolutely no idea the difference between a football and a baseball almost. That's how you felt.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Well,
well, that was part of the transition into giving these players more and more and more and more.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And like 2019 to 22, the Charlie Montoyo years, I didn't think he was equipped to handle that. There was a constant procession of people pregame and postgame going through his
It didn't
office,
feel like it.
dropping off information,
It
telling
didn't
him
feel like
things.
it. And in
Yeah.
fairness to Charlie, he spent an entire career without that. And this is foreign. Like, that's not
Yeah.
how you operate a baseball team if you're Charlie Montoyo or John Gibbons. You're like, this is not how it's done. So I just think back how much of that transition was just difficult. Whether you like it, it's just difficult for
Yeah.
people, you know?
So just to wrap up the Mark Shapiro availability, after the microphones and the TV cameras went off, it was August the 12th. So it was the first day of the 1994 player strike that
Right? Right.
devastated the season,
Great
devastated
memories.
the Expos. And I've told those stories many times. I asked Mark because he was player development. It was his like third or fourth year with the Indians, and he was player development. And I said, how did that affect you guys in Cleveland? Because I remember exactly where I was on August 11th of 1994, on August 12th. And I asked him the question, and he said that it was equally as devastating for Cleveland because they had
Sure.
built the new stadium, and they had a sparkly new roster that was really competitive, as we saw for the next 7 years after that.
Yeah.
And he said that the season was wiped out, and they had so much to look forward to because the stadium was a success, the team on the field was a success, and he said personally that it became difficult for him because his dad, Ron Shapiro, was one of the top agents in baseball and had a bunch of guys with the Expos at the time. So I knew him fairly well. And the union looked at Mark Shapiro, the son of Ron Shapiro, almost as a traitor. Here you are on the ownership side and your dad's on the player's side.
Right.
And how is this working out? So that was his memory, which I found very interesting. But that led me to, I didn't talk to him about it, but it was the 1991 World Series. And no matter what kind of beautiful, handsome, talented team the Indians were going to put on the field, I remember 1991 on the concourse outside the Braves Stadium with the Native Americans, the elders of the Native Americans, putting a curse
I remember
on
that
the
as well.
Braves and on the Braves and the Indians.
Yeah.
That they would never win a World Series. Neither team would ever win a World Series.
Right.
Because of the name, the Indians, Chief Wahoo, the logo was disgraceful.
Yeah.
The tomahawk chop, the Braves name, Chief Nakahoma, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I hate, it's been pretty accurate, although the Braves did go on and win. But the one that I laughed at was in 95 when this curse was just 4 years old. They didn't count on the Braves and the Indians playing in the World Series, where somebody had to win.
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, the curse was okay, but you gotta put an asterisk in there just in case they face each other.
They didn't think it through. They didn't think
they didn't think it through. The next topic here is, I believe, and you tell me your opinion on this, that when Mason Fluharty struck out Shohei Ohtani at Dodger
It
Stadium,
made him look bad.
in the ninth inning with one out,
That was
and
huge.
closer Jeff Hoffman throwing 33 pitches, only 10 strikes, and it looking like a desperate situation. That moment, because he followed the strikeout up with a ground ball out to Mookie Betts, which everybody forgets about. That moment and the Bo Bichette home run, pinch hit home run in Texas on May 28th are the two turning point moments of the Blue Jays season.
Yeah, I mean, whether that's your thing and you want to, talk about certain moments as turning points, they certainly are massively important. I mean, I'm going to say even this Fluharty one, because if you blow the game, you get swept. The Colorado thing, everybody dismisses because they're Colorado, whether you should or shouldn't. You go into LA and get swept and then cack one up like that. The vibes coming home are pretty negative, I think, and you start to tighten up a little bit. So Mason Fluharty, coming into that moment and getting the job done, it just changes everything. Like it put the brakes on what could potentially be, you know, a little bit of slide that's starting. It's such a massive win in a key moment against the two of the biggest stars in the game too. It's not like you just came in and you got the White Sox out in that moment, even though it was just as important. It's a statement. It's a statement on maybe where you're at as a team. That's how if you're the Blue Jays, that's how you're looking.
When he came into that game, it reminded me, and I saw it on TV. Bob Welch and Reggie Jackson. Bob Welch, a hotshot rookie.
Right.
He had more of a reputation than Mason Fluharty, obviously, but it was a similar situation late in the game, ninth inning, and Bob Welch struck out Reggie Jackson.
Reggie did get him
epic
later.
Battle. Yeah, he got him later. But the thing about it is that I agree with you that if they had lost that game after leading twice, after coming back, and then after the Rockies series where they outscored Colorado 45-6 and had an off day in LA, and then meet the creme de la creme of the National League and they get swept, that would have been devastating, because then you have that long flight home, you have another off day, and then you go in and the rest of your season, you're doubting yourself of being able to compete with the best in the other league. Yeah. And then Milwaukee is coming in later in the month, and that will be another test. But facing Milwaukee is not the same as facing the Dodgers.
It's not the same. I don't care what their records are. And I mean, kudos to Mason Fluharty. I'm not sure who he is, and I'm not sure whether between him and Little that those are the guys. But man, Fluharty came in again and looked great, in subsequent appearances too. But I'm just trying to figure out exactly what a Mason Fluharty is at this. I mean, this is a kid who went to Liberty and didn't start at Liberty. So whoever signed this guy, this is what I love about scouting too. He's not a guy you're going to plug into any analytics, parameters, and it's going to spit that out. I mean, somebody's got to go see this guy pitch at Liberty as a reliever and go, yeah, we got to take a chance on this kid. So I'm really curious to see what this guy's trajectory looks like. He's a two-pitch pitcher, cutter, sweeper, but man, that sweeper looks like it's giving people a lot of trouble right now, right?
Yeah. Imagine what Mason Fluharty would be like, and I talked to him about all of that, specifically on Wednesday or Tuesday, and he said he blacked out. He doesn't remember. Imagine.
I'm not sure that's the right answer.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure either, but it was the same answer that he told John Schneider on it, because I asked Schneider about it, and he said, he blacked out. He doesn't remember. And that's crazy. He's got to go watch highlights to see him strike out Shohei Ohtani in the biggest moment of his career.
Well, there'd have been a few deep breaths out there. I mean, that's a moment for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of licking of lips and bobbing for Adam's apples,
For Adam's apples. Yes. No question.
But even if they had lost, well, not even if they had lost, but at this moment in time, since the Blue Jays were swept by the Phillies in Philadelphia, June 13th to 15th, when they play against teams that are currently in playoff position,
Yeah,
the Jays are 13-6 against all those contending teams that currently are in a playoff position. So they've showed that they can compete against the big boys, but they wouldn't remember any of those other games if they had lost that Dodger game.
that's right. And especially at this point in the season, right? And you're in first place, and the squeeze is on, and the squeeze is going to be on. So I'm really curious to see how this. I mean, as a baseball fan, you got to be really excited about all these games. I'm still waiting and expect the Yankees to make a really strong run at things.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got problems. Let's face it. The defensively, they're the anti-Blue Jays. You know what I mean right now. So that's an issue. They're not built the same. Um, it's the Yankees. I don't think the Red Sox are just there yet. Just that, but who knows? I didn't think the Blue Jays are there either, to be honest with you. So it's going to be. I don't expect the Jays to cruise to a division title. Put it that
Yeah.
way.
Well, they got Shane Bieber, and this has been a big week in Buffalo. Shane
Huge.
Bieber's pitching Friday. They got Trey Yesavage pitching Thursday as we record, and then Wednesday was Alek Manoah, and that didn't go well statistically.
No.
But Manoah came out of the game. He had reached his pitch count after hitting in 2/3, but that's another story. But it is a big week for the future of the Jays in Buffalo. And the question that it leads me to is if Shane Bieber rejoins the rotation and they get into a playoff position, do you think that Mason Fluharty, Brendon Little, and if they move Lauer to the bullpen as a third left-hander, that going into the playoffs, that would be a big advantage for them, especially if Fluharty keeps it up?
Well,
because Lauer can eat innings.
if he keeps it up, for sure. But I'm not sure that's realistic. But hey, let's see what you got. Like we said, I thought they didn't do enough in the bullpen. I loved the Bieber move. I think that's the high ceiling move you make to try to win. But I didn't think they added enough in the bullpen. The guys they did, I felt like we're second tier in a way. I know everybody will disagree with Varland, but that's the $1 million question. Can these guys keep it up? Because the pedigree isn't there per se, but Fluharty's he's young enough where we don't know exactly what he is, and so maybe maybe it's going to be fun to
Yeah, there's a
watch.
definitive answer.
Yeah,
But when you talk about, and this has been the trend, obviously, and we've discussed it to death, but bullpens in the postseason, bullpens in October. What if you have Lauer in the bullpen as a third left-hander and Trey Yesavage, who is, there's no doubting the stuff that he has. It's just, can he be another David Price that David Price was in 2008, where he came up as a high draft pick and was slated to be a starter the rest of his career, but they needed him at that moment in time because they're the Tampa Bay Rays and they're not that deep in major league talent. But do you think that Trey Yesavage could do a David Price? Because David Price hadn't proven anything, but he came up and was a key piece of that bullpen in their postseason run to the World Series.
I've been a proponent of this the whole time, and I think you agree. I see no reason, as long as he keeps showing that he can handle, the next step, that he shouldn't be a part of this plan. And I think if you read between the lines with Mark's comments the other day, I think that's exactly the plan. He's being set up to be ready for key outings in September, and why the hell not? I mean, like you say, they probably use him in the pen. I'm not sure if you want to be handing the ball to Yariel Rodriguez and Sir Anthony in critical moments. trying to protect a division lead. And I know that sounds silly, but Trey Yesavage is a young kid, but so what? Like if he's
Yeah.
capable of doing it,
Well, I mean, that
sign me
was
up.
the same thinking, and like it seems like he's a confident kid. And David Price,
Yeah.
I remember being around him in the '08 World Series, and like you would think he was a veteran, just talking to him or watching him operate within the clubhouse. And I think Savage might be that. We haven't seen him pitch at AAA yet, but
Tonight. Yeah.
Double A is a challenge. Double A is all your stud kids that are on the
Yeah.
way up. Triple A is a holding tank for washed up and guys on the way up. It's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
last stop before the bridge.
Let Trey tell you he's not ready. And if he
Yeah,
doesn't tell you that, keep pushing him. Keep
and if you assume that Lauer goes to the pen, if you assume that Bieber is still going to be healthy, and you point out, and you have experience with kids with Tommy John surgery,
I
um,
do. Yeah.
that Tommy John is like overrated in terms of being a deterrent to a career.
Oh, I mean, I mean, but with people almost suggest you should do it as an elective, which is
Yeah, no,
silly,
I've
but
heard that.
which
That's
is
stupid.
very
Yeah.
silly, of course. But the point is, um, there is very little downside. The recovery is 100% on these things for the most part. You come back stronger. Now, could there be other factors that just from a pitching perspective or a mental perspective? Sure. But you come back as strong as you've ever been. The ligament's better than it's ever been. It's hard to mess up a Tommy John surgery. So, um, you know, um, yeah, there's very little risk, I think, other than the fact that you risk development time. That's it.
Yeah, but if Bieber's back and Bieber's healthy and Bieber's in the rotation heading into October, I've read suggestions where Jose Barrios would be a guy that was taken even off the roster, the postseason roster. I think Bassett is a guy that he's going to be a free agent. Like he's been a fourth starter most of this time. And I think that you owe it to Barrios and
Can't
also
do
the
it.
fact that he's got a contract and has an opt out. Like he would opt out in a heartbeat if he was kept off the postseason
Well,
roster.
you can't do it. Like, and,
Yeah,
and you shouldn't do it. I mean, this gets back to your insistence on a six-man rotation that we've been talking about for a year. If there's ever a reason to back some people off, I mean, Barrios is the guy that you want to. I mean, you want to give a breather a little bit just to
yeah.
get him. You come on.
And he'll still end up with his 32 starts. And like I said last week on EP, um, as soon as he was told he would end up with his 32 starts, he was all in on getting an extra day between now and the end of the season, which is great. I think every one of those veteran starting pitchers won't tell you because they all want to be gamers,
Yes.
but they would all enjoy an extra day of recovery between starts and still be fresh going into October, which is a key, and leaving John Schneider's office the other day, I asked him about the six man again
Again.
because I sent him without any response. I sent him how it can be done, and
You're
I
like,
didn't
hey, did
get
you
an
get my
answer.
text, man?
But he said, to be honest, Griff, I have no idea what we're going to do. I don't know. So they're waiting to see
Bieber.
how the Bieber situation turns out. They're waiting to see if everybody in the current rotation remains healthy. Why should they make an announcement now when they don't have to?
100%.
And,
Like,
and
there's no reason to.
yeah, and with the off days coming back from the West Coast, and there was another off day, they, as much as I suggested they could start after Bieber's last minor league outing, they could start the six man. They didn't need to because they had the off days built in. So one more start, and then his rehab time, 1 month, runs out, Bieber, so he can't start again in the minor leagues. Then we're going to see it, what their plan is going to be. And it's all dependent, as we just said, on the health of everyone and how they can fit it. But I will send them another schedule just just to help them out because that's what we're here for.
That's right. We're here to help the boys.
So now here's my premise, and I haven't run this by you, but I've got it. I've got it on a chart, a handwritten chart, which you know that the bus driver on one of our Ironbacks trips said, you're the only manager I've seen because we sit in the front seat
Yes.
next to the driver. He can turn around and look
As you
as
should.
long as he's watching the road with one eye. He says, you're the only guy that I've seen who writes stuff, writes lineups, writes notes with a pen. I said, yeah, I'm old school. Everybody else is like
don't tell anybody.
Right. Okay, so here's my premise.
All right.
Is that 90 wins is the goal, the Jays' goal. And to win 90 games, they need to go 20-21 the rest of the year. 20-21 will get them to 90 wins. And there are 7 other American League teams currently above 500. Those are the teams that could possibly reach 90, reasonably reach 90, and knock the Blue Jays out. So if the Jays go 20-21 and win 90, they would need either Boston or New York to pass them with 91 plus, and 3 other teams from among the 8 to pass them.
That's right.
For them to miss the playoffs. So 90 to me is almost a guarantee that they're going to make the playoffs because the Red Sox would need to go 24-16. That's 8 games above 500 to reach 90. And then the Jays have the tiebreaker.
Right.
And then the Yankees would need to go 26-15, 11 games above to reach 90. And the Jays have the tiebreaker. And Detroit is the closest. Detroit needs to go 20-20 to reach 90, but they don't care. I mean, it's the top 2 division winners.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Get a bye.
Yeah.
And then the other ones, Houston needs to go 22-19, Seattle 23-18, Texas 29-11. Texas is almost like guaranteed not to reach that. So they're
pretty hard.
They're a wild card. They're looking at a wild card, if anything. So like 90 wins is reasonable 20-21 record for the Jays. That should be a target.
I agree. And the only way it seems like they miss the playoffs is if they get surpassed clearly by Boston and New York. You know what I mean? And that's a tall ask.
Yeah. Do you see? And that was my next question about the Yankees and the Red Sox. I mean, we know what struggles the Yankees are having. The Red Sox came back after the Devers deal. They struggled a little bit, and then they took off, and they've got all these young hitters, but I don't think their pitching staff is sustainable for another 40 games.
I don't think so either. I don't think so. I just don't believe the Red Sox, they're another year away. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's just the feel to me. And the Yankees are, like I said, I expect a run from them, but
but why do you expect a run from them? What have they showed?
Well, that's fair. They're playing crappy baseball. I watch a lot of it, and they struggle to, like, they're playing the Twins right now, and they don't look any better than Minnesota. I'll tell you that, which is a very alarming thing.
Yeah, especially since Minnesota realistically divested themselves of a lot of their talent, not even all their high-priced talent. They got rid of guys like Louis Varland.
Yeah.
Who was controllable at minimum.
I think the Yankees can hit, and I think they've really done a great job at the back end of that bullpen, which I think will matter. David Bednar is tremendous. Obviously, they got a Devin Williams problem, but had. I just think they're better than they've been in this recent run, and I suspect that this gap is going to close. I could be wrong. I mean, they don't look confident, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And they're not playing good baseball. There's no question about it. But I think there's too much talent over there for it.
Well,
but hey, when you get talent like that and you don't play well, sometimes guys, it just goes sideways on you, and guys just kind of give up in a little way. So I don't know, like mentally.
Yeah. So the AL East is still stronger than most observers think. The AL East is 20 games above 500, second best record of any division in baseball of the 6 divisions. The NL Central has 4 teams at 500 or above, which is amazing. And they're plus 35, led by the Brewers, led by the Reds, led by the Cardinals are at
Cubs.
500, the Cubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the strongest division. The AL East is second strongest, but the AL East was over 30 games above 500 until the Yankees struggled. The Rays are struggling, as predicted here on Exit Philosophy.
That's correct.
And so the division isn't as daunting for the Blue Jays,
correct,
as it was. So here's a separate question: if the Yankees make a wild card, and if Seattle makes a wild card, do you choose between Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh for MVP, and who would you choose?
I think it's a fair discussion. I mean, Aaron Judge clearly is the favorite. His numbers are clearly superior to Cal Raleigh's. I mean, if you go across the board. But the dude's a catcher.
Yeah.
Like people don't take that enough into consideration. They're going to look at their offensive output, and Judge is clearly ahead of him. I mean, he's on a different planet than everybody else. But man, how do you do that while catching? Like,
Yeah.
Catchers don't.
And that's not even an easy ballpark to hit home runs in.
It is not.
And
catchers generally don't hit anymore. I mean, it's a tough position. So I'd be thinking long and hard, and I might lean to Raleigh just because of the stress and the demands of catching. And obviously, let's see how he does in September. If he hits 2 home runs,
if the premise is that they both make the playoffs, then he should be doing all right in September. To me, Cal Raleigh is the guy because there's no East Coast bias in the annual awards. There's no New York bias. So in the Hall of Fame, you have an elephant's graveyard of BBWA writers who live in the New York area,
right?
And they vote on what they've seen in New York, and they have a bias there. But there's only 2 votes per city.
That's right.
For each award on an annual basis. So I don't think you're going to get a New York bias for Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is having a great year, but he's, this is a Yankee team that should be doing better. Cal Raleigh has led a team that wasn't expected to be this good. They've got a good starting rotation, but the presence of Cal Raleigh prompted the Mariners to go out and add at the trade deadline. And I think that's a key. You get your Josh Naylor, you got and like the fact of his presence creating that situation, to me, adds to the MVP argument. And the fact that in the evening with the cool air in that ballpark and the real dimensions, unlike Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, no kidding.
It to me, it's hands down going to be a Cal Raleigh vote.
Wow, hands down.
Yeah.
Wow, that's saying something. I mean,
there you go.
Judge guy's pretty damn good. But
we'll discuss this in December when they make the announcement, or November, whatever it is.
But I wonder, Griff, how many voters are taking all that into consideration? Because I think most guys, and maybe I'm being wrong, they sit down at the end and go, "Show me the stats." You know what I mean? Show me the obvious stats. Show me, the OPS and all that kind of stuff.
But I think you'd be surprised, Mal, how seriously
the voters
BBWA voters take it. Even Hall of Fame, and also the annual awards. There's more research than just filling it out and whatever. There is a amount of pride because the chairman of each chapter assigns the categories to one writer, and they do take it seriously, even if it's an obvious choice like Manager of the Year, Rookie of the Year. They do, and I think there's a lot of people that don't understand that and say, well, let the players vote. And players and coaches, they put no effort into it.
None. Yeah, there's nothing worse than letting the people who play the game or in the game like that decide. I'm a big proponent of the BBWAA deciding that. Um, no question about it.
Just to wrap up today's episode, a couple of thoughts on the Ironbacks. Again, we wrap it up. Have you finished cleaning up that stadium and putting everything aside and evaluating in your own mind? I know you'll be thinking about it a lot, how to make the product better in year 2, starting in June of 2026. Have you finished all that?
I've finished most of it, but all of it, no, I don't think you ever finish it. But as far as cleaning up, 95%, there's still some stuff to clean up physically. Still wrapping up the financial part of it. But yes, I've always had this. While there's, went to a showcase for Canadian talent 2 weeks ago. Obviously, the futures game is in September. But in my brain, September 1st is always that turning point that I've always had for next year. Like, let's take the rest of the month to wrap things up. And I mean,
Right.
there's so much to do.
That was where my question was leading, because I think you and I should go to the futures game and sit together and look at the program, which has like 4 teams of college players, college eligible players, and do some scouting out there.
Well, I'm going, so I'd love for you to sit beside me. I think that's great, and obviously even developing the relationships with the college coaches. Like there's all the people that you want are going to be in that building. Well, not all the people, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people that you want to talk to, and not that we don't know a lot of them already, but that's where you want to be. That is the upcoming Canadian talent that I want to play for the Ironbacks as they move through this wonderful journey of college and pro baseball. So that is the place to be. So I'll pick you up on the way, Griff.
All right, perfect. And August 14th, as we record today, is the day that the Montreal Expos gave their first payment to the National League for an expansion team, August 14th, 1968, and then began play the next year. And you know how much that check was that Charles Bronfman had to write? $1 million.
Seriously?
Was the down payment. Yes. $1 million.
It was that much?
Well, yeah, and then the total, that was just the down payment. The whole franchise cost $10 million.
I'm just surprised it was that much.
Yeah.
Back then. Like I thought you were going to say something a lot less.
No, but the thing is, as opposed to the Niagara Ironbacks, there was an expansion draft where they had access.
$1 million.
where the Expos and the Padres had access to an actual roster of players, whereas the Ironbacks
zero
on Christmas had zero.
Nobody wanted to help. Nobody wanted to help.
Given that fact that there were no players to begin with, I think you did a great job of putting together a roster.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate that.
But you didn't have to hand over $1 million. So.
No, thank God. I wish it was worth 10 million though. I'll be honest with you. So.
Well, I have some promotion ideas for giveaways. I think at some point, first pitch, we'll invite Tommy John to come out and throw, just to show everybody that it's not a death warrant when you have Tommy John surgery. He still has the most wins of anybody coming off Tommy John surgery.
That's insane.
And you would think that it would improve, the surgery would improve, but if Tommy John has the record, what the hell?
Maybe this Tommy John thing's not all it's cracked up.
Anyway, I appreciate everyone listening to another episode, and don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a comment. And we will talk to you next week. Thanks, Mel, for co-hosting, and we will
go Jays.
Go Blue Jays. Yeah. And so appreciate it, and thanks for listening, everyone.